Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hours sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We've got a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, but if there's anybody here on the live call that would like to ask any questions, feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, I think one of the best things about SEO Office Hours is the fact that we've got people live on the call also sharing their thoughts and ideas and perspectives. So please continue to do that. And like every week, with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Morning.
Hello, Mike. Hello. It's good to be back after we had a little week off. This is our 22nd SEO office hours. It's great to see everyone here today. And yes, as Mike said, I am Joe, SEO Joe Blogs, and I run a digital marketing consultancy company called Turnbull from Barcelona, Spain, where we help people with their international SEO strategy and SEO in general. And also, I'm the organizer of Search London. It's a meetup group for those in PPC, SEO and social, and also Search Barcelona. The next one's actually May 10th. And I'm really pleased today that we have two great guests on the show with us. We have Isaline Muelhauser. Munene has actually been joining us in the audience, like some of you. We are always looking for more people to come on the show. If you're interested, please message Mike and I. So very pleased to welcome both of them to the show today. And we have, as I mentioned, Munene and Isaline, and Munene is actually dialing in from Nairobi in Kenya today, and he is the Innovation and SEO Manager at WordLift, which is if you don't know about it, it's an AI-driven platform revolutionizing a digital content strategy. And on top of that, he actually organized the first SEO and Coffee meetup in Nairobi. That was actually last month in March, and he's going to have another one in July, and the meetup's called SearchSavannah. Thank you very much, Munene, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I will leave your details in the chat so people can connect with you there. And welcome Isaline Muelhauser for joining us today. She is an international multilingual SEO consultant with her passion project in work in SEO. She shares her enthusiasm about SEO, and she's also a frequent speaker within the SEO world. She's actually speaking at a company at a meetup in Zurich on April 30th called Pan Talk, and I'll share the link too. And she's speaking at WorldCamp Europe in Italy. She is an active member of a community called Women in Tech SEO, and fellow Women in Tech SEO members, Monse, Tina, and Lydia will also be there. I will share the link to that so everyone can sign up and join for the event. And she's talking about SEO WooCommerce at the event, and it looks like it would be very interesting. Thank you, Isaline, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
And we have a lot of people joining us today, and we also have a lot of events happening in April. So I wanted to say that there's a few of us that are going to an event called Brighton SEO next week. We want to catch up with everyone and see you in person. And if you're giving a talk, feel free to mention in the chat during SEO office hours with the topic and the day and time, and then we will be able to mention that and share that with the recordings.
Great. By the way, my neighbour has gone into hospital today and I have their dog. And so I've never had a dog in the office whilst doing office hours. You can see her here and she's quite an attention seeker. So if I'm slightly distracted, it's because of Duffy. So pre-warning. Okay, should we jump in?
Yes, yeah. Let's go.
Okay, so first question is quite a long one, but let's just go for it. Our homepage drops in and out of the search results. When inspecting the homepage URL in Google Search Console, I've noticed it can be unavailable to search engines and blocked with a no index meta tag. I think the issue arises from specific US states where what we do is banned and we use geo-IP redirection so bots actually crawl the geo-blocked page. We require the website to be blocked in certain states and countries and have the no index directive. Is there a more optimum approach? Carl, quite a would anybody like to kick off? Joe,
Oh,
go for it.
sure, I'll go. Let me just share this in the chat so everyone can see what the question is. This around the homepage not appearing in certain US states. I would probably recommend to not have this in place just because some states, you might be on the border of some states and then you should actually be able to see the content. And so it would be a bit more interesting it would be good to actually know what this content is for, because as a non-US resident, I have found that when I go to some US sites, it is blocked. But it's perfectly legal for me to actually see that content. It might be something like a news site, and that's actually quite frustrating for users. And obviously, in this case, this site has actually seen that they've seen a drop in rankings, and also probably a drop in homepage drops in and out the search results. So they must have seen also a drop in rankings and drop in traffic. So I would see if there was another way. Do they really need to put this no index? Is there another way that they can actually maybe just put a page and say, oh, this is not available in your country, in your state, as opposed to like actually no indexing it?
Yeah, this is something I've worked with before, where, for instance, in the gaming space, there are certain states that allow that and certain states that don't. And therefore, what you want to do is just make sure that your product isn't available in those places. If I'm honest, I'm not a big fan of using IP blocks based on your location, because it just messes everything up. And if I was this person, what I would do is look at, can you deliver slightly different content based on the IP? So for example, maybe putting a banner in place to explain that we don't provide these services in, say, Texas or Michigan or wherever it is you are. Unfortunately, I don't think, when I've done this before, I don't think you can use any of the sort of SEO tags such as hreflang tags to base on a state level. I think you can only do those at a country level. So that works fine for sort of countries, but with states, it is just quite a complicated situation. And I think the challenge that they've got is that obviously it depends where Google's crawling. So if their homepage is going in and out of the search results, it's probably crawling those pages and seeing what those users are seeing based on where it's coming from. So personally, if there's a way of removing the no index tag from those geo-blocked pages, then I would suggest doing that. And ideally, like I said, if there's a way of like dynamically delivering the content, so if you're in a state that this product or service is allowed, then I would be tempted to provide a homepage with all the information. But if not, maybe just a skeleton version of the homepage. So you're still providing something to search engines. And actually, it's quite useful to users to know that actually we don't provide these services in this state because of this reason. But they're my thoughts. What about you guys? Do you have anything to add?
Those are great insights for sure. The only thing I would add is, in case they still feel the need to keep all these directives, I would totally remove it on the homepage, because as much as this is, maybe they're probably doing something that's not allowed in some states, I don't think anyone is going to convert on the homepage. So you're better off if you want to implement it on maybe the conversion pages, but you can leave the homepage just accessible to pretty much everyone. That way, you still get enough traffic, but when it comes to blocking the people who cannot buy a product or cannot access it, you can still block them, but leave your homepage with no index, without the no index. Otherwise, you're going to end up, like in this instance, dropping in and out of search. And of course, that's going to affect your rankings and your conversions at the end of the day.
Especially your homepage. You don't want your homepage popping in and out of search results. Isaline, do you have anything to add to that?
No, those were great insights.
Cool. Okay. Joe, is there anything in the chat?
Yes, there are some in the chat. First of all, I just want to say thank you for everyone for joining us. Actually, we've got one of our biggest attendees. I've just also written in the chat, where are we dialing in from today? I'm calling from London. Sorry, Mike's calling from London. I'm Barcelona. Isaline's dialing in from Lausanne, and we have Munene dialing in from Nairobi. Now, I think we've got quite a few people here dialing in from different cities. So write that in the chat if you wouldn't mind. Thank you very much. And yes, in terms of some of the questions, just everyone's been joining today. We've got just people saying that it can be quite messy to do that. Oh, someone else dialing in from Marseille, France. Oh, another one from Nairobi. So international SEO office hours today. So yeah, IP blocking, basically, it's a bit of a lottery for the website. It can be very messy. So great insights from our speakers here today. Over to the next question.
Super. Okay. Sorry, that was quite a punchy question for the first one. Yeah. Jump from everybody in the deep. Okay, next question. We had a slip up, resulting in an avalanche of negative reviews. I'm worried that this will impact our ranking. Do you have any techniques to encourage more positive reviews? Interesting. Has anybody had this problem before? Would anybody go first? Isaline, go for it.
So obviously it's preferable to have positive reviews. So the first thing I would say is that you need to answer appropriately to these reviews, not ignore them, because it's okay to have a mistakes, but then you should acknowledge, recognize we are sorry, we made a mistakes, and offer to the clients a way to discuss that offline, like an email address, for instance, because obviously it's not only ranking, but it's also conversion. So the way you're going to answer those reviews, if it's appropriate, it's going to make it not as bad. And then obviously you need, so the best, I've had this issue with the clients in the real estate industry, and the fact that people are stressed, they tend to send negative reviews if they are stressed out, even though you don't do something awful sometimes. So the best thing is trying to add asking for reviews within the process and train your team to do it in a way that is preferable for the company. So obviously, some people are going to leave bad reviews, but if you train correctly most of your staff and give them tools to ask for reviews at the right moment, for instance, it could be if you send some stuff, some documents and some stuff, you can have stickers that you passed on the folder and remind people to leave reviews. You can do that on the phone. You can prepare something for your staff to copy paste in an email. So you need to define in your business where are the favorite moments where people like obviously might have a good experience. And also the thing is, you don't like, for Google best practice, if it's like Google business profile, you're not supposed to influence the review so much. So you need to be considerate of that and not try to block bad reviews and so on, because otherwise you can have, you might face worse penalties. So I think it's really about like how you're going to answer and how you're going to ask for more reviews, generally speaking, through the whole staff, anyone who's contact with the customers.
Great. Munene, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think the main thing for me here when it comes to reviews is I'd say two things. One, it's important to build a culture of asking people to provide you with positive reviews when they've had a good experience, or rather to just provide you with reviews, right? That way, when you do get one or two negative reviews, this is not, it's not a way to bury negative reviews, but they become so insignificant when you have an avalanche of positive reviews. And slip-ups, of course, can happen. And Isaline mentioned, once these negative reviews come in, just try and deal with them both offline and just responding to them online. I think on the point of responding to negative reviews, it's also part of building a culture of asking people to provide you with positive reviews. I'd also encourage anyone pretty much with a business to build a culture of addressing the negative reviews offline. I remember I once worked in-house for a mattress company, and anytime anyone would leave us a negative review, we'd work as hard as we could to find you. And that sounds threatening when I started that way, but we'd work as hard as we could to find you and figure out why exactly did you have this bad experience. And then one interesting thing we'd do is that we'd find a fun fact about your experience. So as much as you had a bad experience, you definitely had a fun fact within you calling us, emailing us or something. And then we'd send you like an interesting gift tied to the fun fact. So an example would be, let's say when you called us, you didn't know what size of mattress you needed. And we decide, okay, cool, let's send you a tape measure because clearly you have a problem with measuring things. And then we'd send a cute little note and stuff like that. At the end of the day, we'd find so many people coming back and actually either posting what they got on social media or sometimes deleting the negative review. Probably they were just having a bad day and you accelerated it by ruining their shopping experience, right? Or sometimes even just saying, hey, I don't think these guys are bad. They just had one bad day. So just dealing with these things on a human to human basis, as opposed to just thinking about it, oh, how do I please search engines, goes a long way for sure.
Great answers. Joe?
Yeah, there's some really great tips. Actually, there's some interesting advice in the chat. I'll read that out. Alex, thank you for that. He says, oh, it depends on the client tip. He recommends to speak to some customers who are really happy with you and tell them about the negative review. Show it to them. They may find in it themselves to write maybe a positive review to balance out that negative one. It actually worked for him in a bar that he co-owned. The bar got one negative review, and then 5 repeat customers wrote positive reviews, and the negative one was then removed, leaving them with a better position than before. So that's a great tip. Thanks, Alex. And also Joe saying that he agrees with the answer about always answering negative reviews with positivity. Depending on the sector, some reputation management tools can also work very well. For example, Go High Level, although that can be a little bit expensive. My bear is talking about saying that negative reviews, this is a very interesting point, it can actually help businesses understand where or what they're missing. Yeah, excellent. I think businesses should also look out for it. Monster was saying a negative review can be a way for some people to ask for help. Yeah, going back to what Eber said, like things that might be missing. Yeah, those are some great tips. I definitely would not want to get rid of a negative review. I think it shows that it's normal to have some negative reviews, but yeah, address any concerns, of course, and show that you're addressing those negative reviews. Back over to you, Mike.
Yeah, I loved everybody's responses. I've not got much to add, to be honest, apart from the fact that the person that sent in the question has actually admitted that they slipped up and it was their fault. And that's good that they're owning that. And I think the way you respond is an opportunity to not just to the person that submitted the negative review, but anybody else that might have been affected by it and might be thinking about adding another review, you responding to that and explaining about what you've done to rectify the issue and you get it and so on is good. I actually used to work in-house for an events company, and it was one of those things that whenever you got a good review, it would always be the organizer, and it would just be one good review. Whenever something went wrong, you'd have 50 bad reviews because it would be everybody that attended that event or something like that. And that was a real avalanche.
So what did you do then?
Which was a bit of a nightmare. We did have a culture of, because we had a sales team and event organizers, and obviously with events, it's a human. You see that person, you talk to them, and you build a relationship with people. The people on the ground and the people on the phones and stuff would often would say, if you've had a good experience, would you mind sharing that with people online? And I just used to ask people to do that a bit earlier on in the process if we had a situation like that. Thankfully, they were really good events, so it didn't happen very often, whether it was weather or something like that. Anything can impact an event, and so you get those situations. But yeah, I think it's amazing that you get it. It was your fault. You want to rectify it, and I think that's the best way. In terms of techniques, apart from asking your team to reach out to happy customers and say, "Would you mind sharing your experience?" I think that's all you can really do. I wouldn't go down the route of incentivizing customers or anything like that, because I think then you're in dodgy territory.
That's not true. You've paid for that. Sorry, just to jump in. You should never want to incentivize someone to leave a good review, because it would backfire.
Yeah. And also I think reviews sometimes act as a bit like a Q&A type section. So maybe somebody's worried that this might happen, whatever did happen. And actually maybe it's a hotel and I don't know, the spa facilities weren't working that day, and maybe that's something they're worried about, and then they see that's something that they've promised isn't going to happen again because it was on the reviews. Anyway, great. Let's go for the next question.
Got loads of questions today.
We've got tons of questions.
Yeah, and if anyone is joining us, everyone is joining us afterwards. So when you're not live and you're enjoying the video, please click and subscribe to the Good Signals YouTube channel and drop Mike a message if you would like to be on the show. Just go to goodsignals.com/SEO office hours. Back to you, Mike.
Urge then to go /. Okay, so this question is from a travel fintech platform. Got cash for organic search and we're experimenting in AdWords. Thinking of investing in content. Where should we kick off? Nice. So this is more of the beginning of a content strategy question. Isaline, would you be up for starting with this one?
I think it's worth starting out with taking the time to work on the strategy and not jumping into writing content straight away. It would be really worth checking at the opportunities, doing a keyword research, doing a market research, understanding who are you against, because the thing is, in the SERP, it might not be your direct competition only that you are up against, but it might be some other business who sell something different, but are still trying to rank on similar semantic fields. So the thing is, doing an excellent research and trying to reducing down the scope of what you're trying to do, thinking about what type of customers you're really trying to approach and what is your message, like what exactly you're trying to sell, and not try to sell all of your product at once. I've found that it's easier to target something specific at first and then grow maybe next year, do another vertical, for instance. So really take the time to define exactly your strategy, where the opportunities lies, where there is maybe a niche or content gap that you could tackle, and really also defining before you start writing what your KPIs are. I think too often I see people jumping into creating content and then not creating content is really expensive and it takes lots of time and resources. So it's really worth defining how you're going to say, this is a good work, this is a bad work, your KPI right from the start, and you can correctly brief your writers and they know what they should be careful about. So it's everybody on each level knows what is expected for them, and it goes best that way. And as a general rule, even to my clients who rely on Google Ads, I'll tell them that 1/3 of their budget of Google Ads or any paid ads should go to organic, because organic is really your assets. It's something that can be taken away from you, whereas PPC, where you pull the plug, you have nothing left. So I would say it's good to use both together. Maybe you can test some words with Google Ads and use those results to get some insights to your writing, but the team should definitely communicate. And I think really strategy is key there. Don't jump in, think about it first. What do you think, Munene? Is that anything to add?
Yeah, I love those insights. Keyword research definitely goes a long way when you're starting in the content game. It helps you to narrow down what you should write about, what not to write about. But again, I think I'm a big fan of offline sort of marketing that informs online marketing. So whenever I've had to start with a business from scratch, creating content, I love going to the sales team and going, what issues do customers have when you talk to them, right? Because most of the time, those issues are probably not on Google, right? So if you have like a sales team, a customer care team, those guys have fantastic experiences with potential clients. And it could be just know the right questions to ask this team, right? So you could ask them things like, whenever you've had trouble closing a sale, what hindrances did this customer have? And most of the time you'll find the first top type of content that you build is content that actually helps them to sell better, because you literally, your content should help you to sell. That's, at the end of the day, that's what you want it to do. So if these people can actually provide you with a script, you're just like noting down what they said and then putting it on a blog post, putting it on a landing page. If people have a problem with maybe how long it takes for you to deliver, maybe how much something costs, and you probably have like payment plans. You're probably never going to find stuff like that when you're doing keyword research. So it's important to address, at least the way I usually go about it when I have access to an in-house team, just address those pain points first, and then let's go to the keyword research stuff. And then I'm also seeing amazing insights here. Sorry, I'm doing Joe's work, but it's something that I also wanted to note. I love doing PPC because, of course, as you're working on organic, the PPC helps with conversions. But the AdWords definitely help you to know what keywords are performing really well in Google Ads, and you can translate that into content for your site so that you don't always have to pay for those keywords. You can start getting the traffic to those keywords for free. Yep, that's pretty much everything I could add.
That's a lot of great insight. I just want to also mention a couple of things before we go into the chat, that like they said that we've got some cash for organic search. So I would actually take a step back and say, okay, how much budget do you have to spend, and put that together in the timeline and a strategy. And that strategy needs to align obviously with your marketing strategy. So obviously they've got AdWords or PPC and content. So where does that fit within the marketing strategy, and where does it fit within the business? Because we wouldn't want to just have this budget and then, okay, we spent it and now what? It's great to have it as part of the overall strategy and get all buy-in, so that it may take some time, obviously, to see some results. So we have some great insights from everyone in the chat. Thank you very much for adding your comments. So Alex was saying about competitive analysis. It provided good inspiration on how to expand visibility. I love doing competitor audits. I always do that, recommend them for my clients, because you don't necessarily want to copy what your competitors are doing, but it shows you what's out there, and it can also highlight the gaps of what people might not be doing too. So Monse was saying about see where you can make a difference, what your direct competitors are not doing. And that's another thing actually as well. Your client or you as a business and your stakeholders may say, we need to look at these competitors. But when you use different tools, you might find that there's some online competitors that are different to what you thought. And also we have Veronica talking about using the data you get from your experiments from Google Ads. And here you'll get really good insights, like we've been mentioning, as to what your audience is searching for, things like questions, keywords, and topics. And you can add that into your content. And also we've got a lot of things around marketplace analysis, what's happening overall in the marketplace. Because again, if you're planning to go international, or even if you're in maybe a smaller market, looking at what some of the other markets, maybe they've progressed a bit further. If it's a large market, you can see what they're doing, and then you can bring that also into your own market, which may be less competitive. And so you may gain an advantage on that. So some great insights here from everyone. Thank you all for your comments in the chat. Over to you, Mike.
Great, amazing insights. So this is something that comes up quite a lot. This week I've had a very kind of similar conversations twice this week with people over the phone. So I'm always a little bit wary when somebody comes to me and says, we want to do a load of content for SEO, because I always think that that could just be a total waste of time and total waste of money if you just, a bit like Isaline was saying, if you just rush it and you don't think about why you're doing it and all of that stuff. And also, what you want to do is any time you're publishing something or investing time, takes a bit of time to evolve it, and you want to make sure you make the most out of it. I would always start with who you're talking to in the first place, and so who those readers are, or who your audience is, or who your customers are, and trying to work out what their pain points are, but also what their interests are. Like everybody said, look at competitors, but also look at other places that they're likely to consume content, and what sort of content are they consuming, and try and marry that up with you as a brand and what you're about. And you might have a vision, or you might have certain values that you want to get across in your content. So trying to match that up. And then thinking about when you've got a load of ideas, then looking at things like keyword research and so on to look at the potential, and those ideas where there is potential that might come under sort of the SEO banner, but then you might have other ideas that might do really well on social, or might earn you lots of links and so on. And so rather than just solely looking at numbers in terms of what traffic levels could be, different types of content usually can do different things. And then so once I've got a list of who I'm doing it for, what the content's going to be about, then the other thing is thinking about what's the best way to deliver this. And in most cases, people tend to go down the route of it needs to be on my own website, but actually sometimes it could be a podcast, it could be a YouTube video, it could be actually, like, one of the things that we often do, if it's a really tough topic to try and rank for, we look and see what else is ranking, and actually, can we offer anything to make that better? So can we do any research, or can we do anything where we can be included on that? And so for me, it goes back to what everybody said, where it really is about that strategy at the beginning, but also don't spend it all at once. Evolve, learn as you go. I think we're always testing things for people, where we throw a load of mud at the wall and see what sticks. Some things we love and we continue with them. Some things we don't. So yeah, I would start there. But one of my favorite things to do is look at similar industries to you and try and see what's working for them. And also looking at other countries, very similar sort of products and services, and seeing what's working for them, and seeing if you can learn from all of that. And then just getting people in a room together and try and do that. One thing to be careful of, and I'm shooting myself in the foot here because I am an agency, but also don't rely totally on your agency. You are the expert on your business and what you're about, and make sure you've got a seat at the table when it comes to coming up with what the content should be about, because otherwise you might end up just wasting the money over 6 months to a year, and then end up deleting it all because it wasn't quite right. Not that agencies do that, but I just mean it's so easy to say this person's an expert, so let's let them go off and do it, when actually you guys are the expert on what you do.
Actually, I just want to say another point to what you mentioned. You said about, we talked about, the question was about content, and then you mentioned actually about a podcast. And content is also in video. And I ran a series in the pandemic, Tea Time SEO. And from the Tea Time SEO, where we did that with Authoritas, we created blog posts, and we actually provided guides against different elements of SEO. So something coming from, okay, let's try to do a podcast, actually developed even further. So I wouldn't limit yourselves, as Mike's mentioned. If you got a couple more things in the chat as well, is, Joe is saying that actually important to use the insights from social posts in the form of the SEO content, and also vice versa. That's a very good point. Is there maybe a type of social post that was outperforming the rest? It might be best to prioritize the written content on this topic. Yeah, and this is something relates back to your point, actually, Mike, that if you're the brand owner, you're the expert. So you can also do the experiments yourself, maybe be consistent for a month and be posting on social media. What content works the best, what platform as well. And then you can use those insights. Yeah, and Sylvia was saying that your money, your life, and video are slowly becoming king. So yeah, thanks everyone for the insights there. And actually, back to the previous question, we talked about bad reviews. Alex had a good point. He said that he worked for a brand that had attracted negative reviews. So their brand actually dominated the search for that brand, and then review, and brand, and scam, and all those negative connotations. And so what they did is they channeled them to a private contact form. And Alex, feel free to say afterwards if this worked or not. I'm assuming it worked, but that's a good point that you raised. And a couple more. Oh, he's saying yes, there was complaints. There were lots of complaints. It may have been better to have that sort of contact form or a forum a bit earlier, to be able to people to so they could vent off steam. Yeah, Monty is also saying it's a good idea to use insights from all channels to come into your content. Okay, great. We're like 40 minutes in nearly. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for joining us live. We have lots of different countries and cities dialing in from. And thank you to everyone joining us, not live, watching recording. And remember to click a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as you are enjoying the show. Our 22nd episode today.
Hey, just one concern with the question that we were just answering is that my fear is we may have just really overwhelmed that person. And so to just make it a little bit more manageable, if we could all give maybe a tip or something on how to actually ensure that they have some sort of output. Mine, for example, would be that what we tend to do is we work in quarters, and every quarter we might come up with, say, a couple of things that we're going to do consistently. And when we get to the end of that quarter, we then review whether or not that's worked. So rather than try and do everything, once you've got that strategy, pick a couple of things and go, we're going to commit to publishing, say, it could be a podcast once a month over that quarter, and then get into good habits. And if it works, continue. If it doesn't, drop it and try some other things. Does anybody else have any tips so this person isn't totally overwhelmed?
I would just say plan it.
I think also Fabrizio Ballarini from Wise published a podcast during the pandemic where he explained step by step about content strategy and how to build a content team and the pros and cons of having an agency and a content team of consultants or in-house. So I would highly suggest listening to that podcast because since it's also fintech, Wise is not travel, but I think that would be really a good resource because I really enjoyed the podcast and he gives really practical example based on his experience. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. And Isaac, who comes on the show a lot, he's the content lead, team lead here at Wise for EMEA. And he actually is in charge of a lot of the content on the blog. And just have a look at what they've been doing. It's amazing, so much information that they have. But obviously, doing something like that requires proper planning. But going back to what I mentioned earlier, make sure it aligns with your business. Don't do something that's offhanded, and make sure that you've got the stakeholders involved. So the tip is go back to the business, see what the objectives are, and make sure that your content plan aligns with that.
Munene, any tip to make sure they actually manage to do something and not feel too overwhelmed?
I think my one-liner would be go back and talk to anyone who's in touch with a customer, and whether it's on social media as a social media manager or as a salesperson or the customer care team, find out what the customer's pain points are and put that into your content.
Amazing. Great. Joe mentioned about being 40 minutes through and we're not halfway yet. So I've just grabbed you.
Question 4.
In fact, we've got, yeah, okay. Okay, so I would like to hear a discussion on whether the panel believes Google is penalizing over-optimized sites and whether they recommend newer tactics such as removing keyword stuffing from pages. Cool, okay. So I guess the question here is really just around over-optimization. Is it something that's worked and should people stop doing that? Munene, how would you feel about starting on this one?
I think, first of all, just to mention the word keyword stuffing, that's something you should not be doing to begin with. Just do not do that.
Yeah.
Before we even get to remote. But yes, Google definitely reward more people who can show that they are a native in that field. And I feel if you write as a native in the field, you really do not need to over-optimize a site. And we're seeing a lot of sites that are being rewarded, or even blogs that are being rewarded. You can tell that this is someone who is actually an expert in that field. And I know some of them, it started with more critical industries, such as medicine or financial advice. Google stopped rewarding people that were not experts in those fields. But we see it trickling down even to things like travel, right? If you have actually really nice photos of I am a traveler, or I just do this for fun and I like to write about it, I don't think you're going to care much about how to get a cab from London to, I don't know, XYZ. You're just going to write naturally because it's something that you enjoy to do. So I feel like if you're gonna write any content, just try, if you're an expert, don't get lost in the keywords of trying to over-optimize all your keywords and subheadings. I feel like a really good title goes a long way in just making sure that everyone knows what that keyword is. But when it comes to your subheadings, don't go too crazy about it. Just be as natural as possible. And we are seeing that being rewarded a lot more and more. So remove all your keyword stuffing, just start from there, and then write as naturally as possible. And then improve your EAT. So as long as your expertise, authority, and it's EAT actually, sorry about that. As long as all of that is growing, I don't think you have to worry too much about over-optimizing your subheadings.
Amazing. Isaline, do you have anything to add to that?
I find that people tend to over-optimize website for one of these two reasons. Either they want a quick fix, something that goes fast, or they're copywriter who are starting in SEO and go through a phase of over-optimizing everything. I think sometimes when you write, it takes time to find a balance. Like they think they're doing it well because they really think, oh, I'm following the good practice, but they go too much. So sometimes it takes a time to find a balance between creating content for the users and trying to make that content visible. I would be too hard of people trying to over optimizing, because sometimes they are just people trying to learn new skills. But obviously, it's just not recommended. I think in that case, obviously, you should turn around the questions and go, okay, how I can best understand the search intent and answer it, because so far I have seen that if you understand well the search intent and create matching content with your internal know-how, it works. Like most of the time the page works, like if you do the normal level of optimization. So I think it should be more about how can I inform the creative process and the writing process, like to make sure they are maybe gatekeepers, if some sort of free reading, if the copywriter have a tendency to over-optimize, and also think about how you can best inform the actual content, create bridges between experts and copywriter to have really good content. So I think it's not about thinking about over-optimizing is never a good thing. It's better always to think in terms of creating great content. I know it takes time and effort, but again, there is no easy way. It's like anything. You're trying to build an asset, so it takes time to create a great asset for your company. And I would really recommend on the longer run, it's going to be preferable and more profitable to have an excellent asset. And if it goes too slow, you can try to push it and test your content with a bit of PPC, for instance, and see how it goes. And then it saves you some time before the content performs well in organic, because you have to wait for a while. So just turn around the questions and think in terms of process and content creation.
Yeah, those are some excellent tips that we're having on Munene and Isaline. I just wanted to add as well, and this is something that I do with my clients, is that I create a content brief. So I outline what do I want that page to be known for, that topic, and then I structure it that way. And if you have a content brief, then it helps you to avoid having this type of keyword stuffing. Of course, in this question, if you've already had some sites or some pages that you think are over-optimized or a bit keyword stuff, put those into a platform such as SEMrush SE ranking. You can look and see what is that page ranking for. Or it also points out what keywords are being used on that page. And if you don't have a platform, what I would do is actually just copy and paste that into a Google Doc and maybe pass that over to someone that isn't in SEO and get their honest opinion and see what are they thinking about, because it needs to read naturally to everyone. It's for the user. And the over optimization, that was something that was used in the past to try and cheat the system, but also can be used sometimes if people are not 100% clear on the strategy that they're following right now. I wanted to also mention a few comments in the chat as well. Yeah, Sylvia's mentioning that they're definitely penalizing people that are stuffing their pages. It's being seen as spam. So experience has become really big, back to what Munene was saying: experience, expertise, authority, and trust. I also want to refer back to what we saw about people using AI, and Alex has said that about, remember look how well those AI content sites were performing, those tweets that we'd seen. Maybe ask them how they're performing now, because yes, that's not the case anymore. Being an affiliate to something that's not related to your site, to your field, is penalizing, could be detrimental. Eber is talking about focus more on writing and optimizing for people. And Monse was saying content should always be written in a natural manner, aimed at the users, not the search engines. And Veronica's mentioning that as well. And she says that she tells her students to think about how you want to read a text. You don't obviously want to see one that looks a bit spammy. How do you want to read a text? What are you expecting? And then write in that way. And use content pieces like images, videos to tell your story. So some great answers in the chat. And over to you, Mike, because I know we've got 11 minutes left.
Okay, so with this question, to be honest, actually, there was a really interesting article this week by Will Reynolds on a similar topic. And he was talking about de-optimizing some of their pages. And he was just, what I really liked was at the beginning of the article, he just talks about how he was looking at competitive terms. And actually, all of the results were not that great in terms of once the user's on the page. And actually, what about de-optimizing the page and thinking about the user? And to be honest, that's the school of thought that I come from, in terms of whenever we use copywriters, we don't hire SEO copywriters, we hire experts within their fields. Whenever we do link building, actually, I like to use PRs for that. And I'm the SEO, so I'm the one that makes sure there's something for the PRs to go out with to then link back to. Or when we do any copy, we need to make sure that it's obvious what the page is about, but at the same time, I want to have a point of difference to what's in the search results. So rather than just being the same as everybody else, having interesting titles, having great copy. And then I also love, and I think Veronica mentioned this, I love actually getting landing pages in front of real people and asking them what this is about, and asking them specific scenarios, and seeing, and that's more of I come from, I do quite a lot of A/B testing, so that's where that comes from, but actually doing stuff that satisfies the person that's getting on there in the first place. Bad person to ask this question to be honest, because that's not how we've won when it's come to doing SEO. So yeah, make it obvious, but just make it the best piece of content.
Yeah,
okay,
and just one final tip actually from Lizzie, thank you for that. She says, read the headline out loud to yourself. Yes. Does it make sense to you? Does it look spammy? If it is, probably is a bit spammy.
Great. So we've got 9 minutes left. I'm going to try and fit in 2 questions, or maybe we'll see. But what I wanted to say is, obviously there's Brighton SEO next week, and I know that loads of people will be going to it. If there's anybody here on the event that's actually speaking at Brighton SEO, feel free to put it in the chat and tell us what the event's about and the time, and then we'll mention that at the end. Or if there's a particular talk that people should go to, and yeah, feel free to mention and support your friends. Okay, so we'll take this one very quickly if possible. In our next meeting, can we discuss everyone's opinion on the use of TOC plugins, so table of contents, by some websites to manipulate search rankings and site links? That was something that you started noticing everywhere at one point, where every blog post seemed to have a table of contents at the top. I know that there's been some conversations recently on Twitter about this. Anybody got any thoughts? Are table of contents relevant on pages? Who would like to kick off? Joe.
Okay, I'm just writing it now, the question.
Sorry.
Michael keeps me on his toes. Oh, that was a bit, I'll delete that because that looked a bit messy. Excuse me for the moment. So yeah, in our next meeting, discuss TOC plugins. To be honest, I haven't been using many TOC plugins. I wouldn't want to be using something that would be manipulating any sort of search engine rankings or any site links. I would actually be able to structure my page so that's clear to read. What I do with mine is actually go back to the content template that I mentioned earlier, and I recommend to my clients too. And I structure that in terms of if there's anything to do with frequently asked questions, I have that markup in there. It's still, I know Google downgraded it last year, but if you have that plugin already established, you can actually include that. But also I've seen actually more of the people also ask appearing in the SERP results because of the way that you structure the question. We can't guarantee it, but for me, going back to this question, I actually don't use the TOC plugin. I actually structure the page as I would like the reader to use it, and it can influence if it appears as a frequently asked question result or as the people also ask.
Great. Isaline, do you have anything to add?
No, that was a great answer from Joe.
Munene, anything to add?
For me, the table of content, should it be something that you think about as something to manipulate search engines? But if you're gonna have it, it's pretty much something that you use that's for the user at the end of the day. Don't think about what's the best TOC plugin for me to manipulate search engines, right? It's the user that you want to help to navigate to a certain piece of content. And of course, sometimes this table of content tools, or maybe even adding a script on your page, can also help you to create a table of content section. Helps whenever, especially when you have really long articles or guides, and you can have that nice split and guide the user. Okay, so if you specifically want this section, you can click here. but never think about it as something that you use to manipulate search engines. And it's interesting because actually I'm seeing a comment here about how old questions keep coming up in SEO. I think we seem to be going back to those days when black hat SEO was like the cool thing, and people are trying to figure out how to game the system. But that's not the key thing to do, especially when Google is getting smarter and smarter. I don't think thinking about how to game the system is the right way to go about it. Think about how you can help the user. And at the end of the day, if you help the user, you're going to help your rankings as well. Don't focus on how to game the system. It's really pointless at this point.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I would only ever include a table of contents, like you said, if it was just like a really long guide, or maybe there were really like points of difference in the article, and actually somebody just wants to find a specific thing. Okay, so very last question is, very quick if that's okay. What are you most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment? This is our regular question that we have. Do you want to go first? What are you most excited about?
I'm most excited about all the events that are taking place. I know I always say that, but I do like the blends, and really excited. Look, I have a little SEO FOMO mug. Thanks, Aleda. So she organized one this week in New York City, and I was at Traffic and Girona, an event called Traffic, and it was a great event. I spoke there, so really excited about that. And also really pleased to see that we're going to be having Brighton SEO next week. I think we had in the chat, actually, Yoast is talking there. They're talking on day one about embracing the change, talking about a cookie-less future. So yeah, great to see all that happening at Brighton SEO next week.
Great. Munene, what are you most excited about?
This year, I think one of the most things I'm excited about in SEO is community. As Joe mentioned, today we just officially launched SearchSavannah, an SEO community right here that started right here in Nairobi, but has gained interest all across the continent and even outside of it. Where we're hoping to bring in as many experts who can feel confident to express themselves. Another community that other event that I'm really excited about is Search African that's happening next month in Lagos. I'll be speaking there, but it's also one of the, I think, one of the biggest in the African continent. So I'm pretty excited about how communities are just handling that whole aspect to togetherness in SEO and helping people to express themselves, learn, find opportunities, and so on. I see Joe has dropped the handles for SearchSavannah. Thank you very much for that, Joe.
Amazing. Isaline, what are you most excited about at the moment?
Sorry?
I'm really excited about AI and the possibilities it offers. I know that it's a tool, and probably there will be all sort of various use and some good use and some bad use, but generally speaking, I think it can really help out and speed up some process to allow us to focus on something that matters most and just organize our workflow better. And I'm all about efficiency, and I've been using a lot of testing out tools since a year now, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm starting doing some internal talks within companies, sharing my findings. So that makes me really excited, just seeing people opening up to a new tech and trying it out. It's difficult to get people out of their comfort zone, especially when they work internally. Like sometimes they're very comfortable. So I'm really excited to see that and see where it's going, and I'm hoping I can play an active role in shaping how to use some tools ethically. So that's my plan.
Great. I think that's it. I think we're done.
But
10:30.
But can we say we'll be at Brighton SEO and hopefully see some of you that are at Brighton SEO next week?
Yes. And we've decided that we're not going to do SEO office hours next week because most people are going to be in Brighton. So instead, we're going to enjoy the conference, see everybody, catch up, and we'll be back the following week. And I don't think we're having a break then for a while. It will just be consistent.
But sorry, I just want to say also, we've shared the chat in the chat where Isaline and Munene are speaking. So please follow them and also follow SearchSavannah too. And thank you, Ebere, for joining us as well today. So Ebere is the organizer of Search African.
Great. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to everybody that joined. Thank you to the people that submitted questions. I hope it helped. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks. See you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.